I will not be able to finish chapter 16 today. In verse 17 through 20, there's a warning about those who cause division and destroy the teaching of Christ. And I want to deal with that on a lesson totally by itself. And so next Sunday, I will deal with what is being taught there in verse 17 through 20 to overcome false teachers and those that run to sow discord among brethren. But it's a joyous end here in chapter 16. 26 people are referred to by name. 2 unnamed. 9 are mentioned as Paul writes to Rome of these individuals that are with him, and he uses this time to share their love for Rome, these individuals. And so, and there's about 3 or 4 different places where it talks about churches in their house. And we'll look a little bit about that also this morning. But what does that say to us about Paul? He's a people person. He cares about it. He often would refer to his desire to help people in various congregations. He said, the cares of the congregations are on my heart and my mind. He weighed over it. He hurt over it. He went with a personal touch to these places. He yearned to be at other places, to see them face to face. And so Paul, the significance is Paul is a friend maker and a disciple maker. I don't know if anybody can meet up to this man's record, especially in writing. And I know we can't meet up to the inspiration that he has and the ability to pass on gifts by laying on of hands. And Paul told Timothy, don't forget the gift that I gave you. Paul did not live an isolated life. And you know what? We can't afford to either. Sometimes we yearn for that. You've heard me mention, I'm going to just move out to my 6 acres and tend to my chickens and plant some garden and hogwash to the society and the problems. Can I afford to do that? No. We as members of the church need to stand up, be counted, be seen. We need to touch people. We need to influence people. Whether we are an elder, a preacher, a deacon, or a Bible class teacher, every one of us have a responsibility to let our light be seen. I like Paul's ability to show appreciation. He tells these people, I remember you, the time we had together, what you did for me, the work we did together in helping these congregations be established. And you know, sometimes we only get a word describing one of these names, the beloved or the server. I wish we had details of everything that's on his mind about that person. No, you can think about congregations that you've been a part of, and I know that people have had an impact upon you. If I were to ask you, who do you appreciate? Then my next question is, why? And you could give the details. And we could share that appreciation, even though we don't know those people that are in your life. I know the Greggs lived out and worshiped at Grayford and other places. They've told me about these places. Others have told me where they've lived and the congregations they've been members of. Just as Paul writes about these people. You could write an epistle about these people who had you around their table, drank coffee, ate, or worked together. I could tell you about things in Abilene, being on a rooftop, nailing shingles down for a widow's house or whatever, or hauling hay for a man, or you could do those too. Cherish those, but also make more memories. We're not finished yet in living the Christian life. We're not finished yet here at Central. Think about the days ahead. What's going to happen? I don't want to think about the church dying. How about you? And you know what it takes? It takes commitment. It takes togetherness. It takes working together, dreaming together, and then putting elbow grease into it. Let's keep that in mind. You know what he's writing about? These people, they are him multiplied. Every ounce, every thought that he has put into these people, they have grown, they've learned, they've put it into practice, and now Timothy, Titus, Silas, Barnabas, all these men and all these people working behind the scenes maybe, but because he spent time with them, he prayed for them, he taught them, he encouraged them, he probably scolded them. Do we need a good scolding? I was just talking to a man recently. I was going to use this in my sermon, but it's too good. You might get it twice. This older, experienced man was asking a younger Christian, why aren't you attending all the services? He was trying to encourage him and challenge him. You know the reply? I'm too busy. I'm sorry. If we're too busy in this world, we're not having our priorities right. Preachers need to have their priorities right. If I'm not doing what you pay me for, you know what? You're going to call me up. You're going to talk. If elders aren't doing what they're supposed to do, you're going to raise up a storm. What if members aren't doing what they're supposed to do? And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but if you need to be encouraged and challenged, let it land. Let it land on your heart. Well, in verses 1 through 16, Paul is going to talk and greet friends. This letter's going out. I can just see the print press. I've seen the copiers, and they're, hey, we got another letter from Paul. You want a copy? Often that was shared. There at the end of Ephesians, I think there's the idea of Paul sending a letter to somebody, and we don't have a copy of it. Might have been absorbed in the writings other places, but and so there's friends to greet 1 through 16, foes to avoid 17 through 20, and the faithful to honor verses 21 through 24. The first is a lady named Phoebe, a deaconess. You know what? That scares us. A woman, a deacon. Well, in a little bit, we're going to look at two men who are called apostles. But they're not apostles in the sense of Paul and the 12. In the sense of one taking a message. That word apostle can be you, me. But not in the sense that we spent time with Jesus, and not that we have inspiration or power of the Holy Spirit other than what we received at baptism. And so, who's this Phoebe? She was a member at Cenchrea. And I'm told, and I'm going to have to get this exactly, but that she is the one that actually carries this epistle to Rome. Here's a woman carrying inspired writing to Rome so that they can read and hear Paul's heart. I appreciate her willingness. Now, would I assign a woman to do that? You know, we're so concerned about women not usurping authority, that men lead the church. I think there's places for women to lead in a place that's fitting. Not to stand up and preach, not to stand up and teach men. Bible classes, yes. Deacon simply means a servant. She was converted by Paul when he spent a year and a half at Corinth. Women served in the early church. But we have to understand what capacity. I do not think that they were out of place in the realm that they were placed. It can't be, or it would go against these scriptures that tell us her position. Who are the two that taught Apollos? We'll talk about them in a minute. Acts 17. Was she a co-teacher? Did she keep it zipped when Apollos was being taught? I can see her adding to, helping her husband remember maybe some facts. You know, Karen and I'll be talking, and I'll say, Karen, remind me, you know, did I forget something? You know, that's carrying it in the proper way. She may have visited the sick, assisted younger women. She probably helped the poor. She even helped him. Paul says she was a helper. There's the idea of a protectress, a succorer, who you offer help. That's that food or encouragement, you know, that helps an individual grow. And he said, I've received it, and other Christians have been helped by this woman. And if it was out of place, do you think Paul would be encouraging the church? Hey, take care of her.
No, female Christians are just as important as male Christians. We're all followers of Christ. We're followers of the apostles, and Christ gave the apostles the Great Commission to go into all the world and preach the gospel, and that also applies to us.
Yeah.
And
I welcome ladies to ask questions or make a comment in Bible class.
But
I guarantee you, if one of you get carried away, I'll just say, excuse me, let's go on. I'll keep control of the class as the Bible class teacher. There is Cynthia, you know, comes from a group of thinkers that really was concerned about women getting out of place. And when she first came, she wouldn't make comment in class, even though I asked, do you have a comment? And she kept it zipped, you know, and cautious. And I appreciate a person that is concerned about their conduct and how they carry themselves and not wanting to do anything out of place or wrong.
I have a lesson from Everett that's coming up pretty soon in the next few weeks called The Role of Women in the Church.
Braden has been recording, putting the recordings of uh, Everett on Facebook, and he says one is coming up that he preached on women. And so let us know when you get it done, and I'll put a note in the bulletin. Everybody, you can go look and get some other thought from this.
But think about Timothy. He was taught by his grandmother and mother.
Yeah,
Women are just as important as men.
he was raised up in a faith, and Paul commends them. Hey, Timothy, I remember Eunice and Lois teaching you. You are who you are because of their influence in your life. It wasn't out of place. And so this is Phoebe, and let's be just as appreciative of her as Paul was. Any questions about it? Let's
There's only one man that ever lived that got on the earth without a woman. That was Adam. If it wasn't for women, none of us would be here.
we need women. Do
Yes.
some women get out of place? I can point to not anybody here. I can point to, in public life, a lot of women
Get
out of place.
But there's also men that get out of place.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All of us should be mannerly, respectful, orderly. You know, we're told to do things in a decent and orderly way in the church.
If a woman wanted to have Bible study in her home and invite men to come, you think that would be usurping authority? If there was no men willing to do it?
Everybody hear the question? If a Christian woman, single woman, widow, want to invite people into her home to teach them the gospel, number one, she's probably inviting non-Christians. Number two, they don't have to accept the invite. And if she is of such character and discipline, how much is she putting into her life to walk the straight and narrow, to make sure she's not doing something wrong? And I know there's ignorance and so forth.
Well, you can put that on a man too.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
To answer his question, I don't think there's great opportunity to teach someone the gospel in your home. Priscilla and Aquila took Apollos aside.
Well, when it comes to teaching class in your own home, I don't think it really matters who teaches, because the woman may have more knowledge than the man if there's a man there. Would you
I
want?
think we all agree.
Would you
on
want
that.
somebody teaching a class?
What you do in your home?
When I was at Ambrose, my mother and I went visiting. We went visiting in the homes, and we held some Bible studies in homes together. She never
Stepped out of line, did she?
stepped out of line. There is a way to do it. There's a way for a woman to be involved.
What is the warning in Timothy? Women, don't take the power. Don't usurp the authority. It goes back to Adam and Eve. Her influence of her husband. Here, take, eat. This is good fruit. If it's fruit. It's fruit of that tree. Whether it was sweet or not, I don't know. It probably was bitter. What it caused. That's the warning. A woman not to take an opportunity to teach wrong. So that's why God has silenced her in a public way. Okay? Anybody here ever had a job that you had to work for a woman?
Every day.
Well, a woman working for a woman, that's nothing. Okay, I should have said. I saw Trevor raise his hand. Was this at your present job where you had to work for a woman? How'd it go? No, I won't go. I won't go there. You still got that job, so it must have gone good. What if we have a woman president someday?
No.
Boy, they're pushing it.
No.
They're pushing it. They're trying. All right. Let's keep going.
I'll tell you, when I worked at Taylor Cars, Chuck Taylor was the owner of the business, but he had a secretary. She made a decision. She was the only person in that place that could make a decision over Chuck. She knew business. And when she told you how to do something, if you went to Chuck about it, she'd say, well, what did Pat say? That was her name. And that's what she'd do. She wasn't the boss, but she was the boss.
Well, anybody have a daughter out there in the business world and has had a degree? And you know, I'll ask my daughter Megan about car titles and taxes on property, and she studied it. And I'm ignorant. Megan, what's the best way to handle this? I bought a trailer without any document. And how do I report it? How do I do it legally? You know, and she told me how to do it. So, did she usurp authority? No, she was a resource to find out facts and truth and carry on business. So those things. But in the church, we're concerned about the role of women, and you can serve, and we encourage you to serve. All right. The next one is Priscilla and Aquila. Let's read verse 1. I commend unto you Phoebe, our sister in the flesh, blood sister. Yesterday on the way home, we stopped in Abilene, saw Karen's sister. Now, she's a sister in the flesh and a sister in the faith, but she's a Christian, which is a servant of the church, which is at Cenchrea. By the way, that's the harbor, main harbor there in Corinth. That you receive her in the Lord as becomes saints. There's a responsibility that we have one to another as saints. We talk about fellowship. Fellowship needs to be protected, maintained, and built up. That you assist her in whatever business or whatever matter she has need of you. Well, in taking care of the poor, if she knows you and you might have the means, can you provide some grain? Can you provide some oil? What do you have? Here's a need. Will you supply it? That kind of business.
That leads me to believe that she was the one that brought the letter, the way it starts off.
Yes.
Yeah.
The first one to be mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay. And she has whatever she has need of you. A teamwork. You know, we all put our hands together to do it. For she has been a succorer of many, and myself also. Anybody have a different word than King James there in the last verse 2? Succorer. Helper. Somebody mentioned the idea of the one that protects. protects the relationship, protects the person. How can you do that?
Mine's a benefactor.
Benefactor, okay. A benefactor is someone you get benefits from, has the means. Lydia, seller of purple, had the means of having the church in her home. And seller of purple probably was rich. So she could have been a benefactor to many people. How can I or you be a protector? I hear gossip. Number one, sometimes you don't need to listen to it. But if you have heard it and you know the truth, protect somebody's reputation. I don't believe that. I believe this person is upstanding, honest, trustworthy. Don't speak evil of this person. I can protect you, you protect me. Greet Priscilla and Aquila, my helpers in Christ Jesus. Have you heard about Paul being a tent maker? He was in business with, or maybe these two helped him. Hey, Paul, you're having a tough time. Come, we'll put you to work, and we'll provide you room and board. And they made tents, and it helped Paul. But they were generous enough to invite, to bring them in. And we don't know all the particulars of that situation, but, that's found in Acts 18, verses 1 through 3. You talk about benefactor, says that these two risked their own lives for Paul. That means they almost died for him. Whether they were injured, whether they were kidnapped, whether they were beaten up or thrown in jail, we don't know the details exactly how they risked their lives. If I stand up to protect you, I could be risking my life. If I offer to take you somewhere in a car, I'm risking both of our lives, Anybody that's willing to either sacrifice their life or die for you, they are true. He don't tell us the details, but he says, these people were willing to die for me. Who are you willing to die for? Never been put to that challenge, have we? In reality. And my next words, it could be coming. Persecution of the church. In 1 Corinthians 16, verse 19, it says they were benefactors in that the congregation met in their home. Did they have a room big enough to have 30, 40 people in there? I don't know. But somehow they accommodated the members to come and assemble and worship God. Why? Because in the beginning they didn't have church buildings. And I'm not against church buildings, or we wouldn't be right here. But we need a place to assemble, whether that be a tent or a brush arbor or in a barn or under a tree or out under the sun. Assemble. And they open their home. That's generosity. I can hear some women today, I'm not having the church over today. I haven't got the dishes clean. And we got laundry hanging around. And things need to be picked up. And I haven't swept the floor. And how many other church homes, or how many homes served as a meeting place? Well, how about John's mother, Acts 12, verse 12? Turn there. We're almost at our time. Looks like I'm going to have extra to teach next week. 12:12, Acts. Apostle John. Wait a minute. Didn't Jesus on the cross say to his beloved disciple, that woman, she's your mother. Mother, he's your son. John had two mothers. And when he had considered the thing, he came to the house of Mary, the mother of John, whose surname, I might have said that wrong, whose surname was Mark, where many were gathered together praying. Was this John Mark, the one that left the first missionary journey, and when Barnabas wanted John Mark to go on the second, Paul said, no, he's not going. Look what he did the first time. He abandoned us. He quit in the middle. He went home. Until I know he's matured and changed and grown, he's not going. But Barnabas took him. How about Lydia? Acts 16:40. Turn there. I mentioned to her a while ago from Philippi, seller of purple. Paul met her at the river where she was praying. Was that an assembly place? Or was it an early morning devotional? Acts 16, verse 40. They went out of the prison and entered the house of Lydia. When they had seen the brethren, they comforted them and departed. Now, the details don't exactly give the idea of it's a church, an assembly. But the brethren were there. Look at Nympha, Colossians 4:15. And here in a minute, we're going to talk about Stephanus, who the assembly met in his home. Colossians 4:15. And we'll use this, the last one. Just emphasizing, you don't have to have a church building, just have an agreement at a meeting place. Everybody knows what time. Don't go by African time. Say it's going to be at 10 o'clock and everybody gets there at 11. Show up. Don't be tardy. Colossians 4:15. That can't be right. Oh, okay, I looked at the wrong verse. Salute the brethren which are in Laodicea and Nymphos. Nymphos is the male version of that word, but scholars believe it's a woman. And the church which is in her house. Now, if it's a man, he's doing the same. But what we learn from there is, they opened their house and they had worship, took the Lord's Supper, preached, prayed, sang, all of that. Well, our time is up. Thank you very much.